my story with God is obviously looking really different than what I wanted anyways. And so I think it's surrendering to like, God can use any avenue. There's so many incredible couples that I've met through online dating that love God, that are serving his kingdom, that have healthy marriages and families. So I'm like, if you want to use this avenue, go for it, God. Like,
hello and welcome to the Christians Who Date podcast. It's Andrea, Lauren, and Callie all here together. Lauren, did you find our notes?
No, I can't. So I just have to go from my heart. It's gonna be fine.
Try to remember all the online dating experiences I've had from my memory.
I like to be detailed. I'm an administrative type of gal. Okay. You all know this.
Lauren was like literally trying to look up her notes, and I was like, we're starting. Like I had already hit the button and it was counting down. So.
I know. I feel very unloved, but
can't go back now.
It's fine. I'm just trying to do my best here for the audience.
No, the audience appreciates it. The audience appreciates
it. They do.
No, they want excellence, and I will try my best. I have it not stuck in my throat.
Try my best. Also, shout out to the audience because you guys have been texting us and messaging us on Instagram, and
we've been getting gift pack or care packages, letters,
flowers sent to our house,
postcards.
I have none of that, but I did have a friend that ran with me this morning, and she was like, "I love your podcast," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, thanks,
Lauren's friend."
Thanks, Lauren's friend. Okay, some of that was an exaggeration.
You guys,
Callie, you're serious. Have you got a postcard, Callie?
No.
Callie would.
Maybe.
Also, we just want to mention Callie was eating olives as her food for the day right before this started. And I'm like, olives?
I had other food too, but in the last couple of hours, I haven't had anything, and olives were the thing that was ready to eat.
That is like never my go-to choice, but
I love olives. They're so good. I just ate an entire can. That's what I had.
I like a can of black olives by themselves.
They're so good.
I don't like it on anything.
That is unfortunate.
Because once you introduce an olive, that's the only thing you're tasting. There's no other taste.
Olive you all.
Wow. Have you said that to a boy, Lauren? Have you used that move?
But speaking of, today we're talking about pickup lines.
That's the number one pickup line of Lauren's.
That's what all of you.
I love you.
We should do an episode on pickup lines. So, like,
gosh.
Just, like, wink at a guy, and
mine would be like all old people phrases.
Oh, yeah, like that.
I would have killed it in the 50s, except for you wouldn't have been the one giving them because it was the 50s.
So true.
No, she would be like the forerunner of the women's movement for flirting. So.
Oh my gosh.
Callie would have been like, let's keep the same phrases, but like we get to say them if we want.
Yes.
Exactly.
100%. No, but Lauren, what are we talking about today?
Oh, we are thrilled to talk about online dating today, people. It is huge. It is huge. And we've all done online dating in some way, shape, or form. And so we're going to talk about it because so many people are meeting through online dating or on the apps. And we have plenty to say about it. But Andrea, Callie, and I were talking about like our intro, and I was like, well, I have a story of being kind of catfished for one of my first online dates. So
Lauren volunteered as tribute for this podcast intro.
Yeah, definitely. So quick story. Met this guy through Coffee Meets Bagel. I feel like people who are millennials use Coffee Meets Bagel.
Dude, I'm thinking about getting on there, to be honest.
Okay. Well, there you go. Coffee Meets Bagel. This guy on his profile was super buff, like really just like all of them were like lifting, and I was like, this guy looks so sporty and like cool, and I was really excited. So we were gonna meet up in Pasadena at True Food. True Food, super healthy. He's a healthy eater. So I'm like excited. Seems like a nice guy. And he went straight to the point. Like we hardly talked. He's like, hey, do you just want to go on a date? I'm like, yeah, let's just go on a date. Like, sounds great. He's like, great, I'll get you dinner. So I get there. I'm looking like super cute. I look around and he's like, I'm here. And I don't see him. I don't like see this guy. And then I see this like really nervous, super skinny guy come up to me with braces. Which is fine if you have braces, no judgment. But it was not on his profile pic at all, any of this. And I was like, this guy's lost like 50 pounds. Like, I don't know what happened. And so I'm like, this is the guy, but he doesn't look anything like his profile pics.
Oh, buddy.
Come to find out, he had his profile pics from college when he was like weightlifting and things like that. And now this is 10 years later that he's where he's at right now, which is, he's on a journey. He's been busy working, I guess.
On a journey.
He's on a journey. So anyways, he was shaking, super nervous. And so I was like, oh gosh, I got to like calm this guy down. Like we got to get him to be okay with like getting through this date because he was so nervous. And I was also like, you kind of catfish me. You're the same human, but this is like not the same pictures like that that I thought I was
signing up for. Did you really say that?
No, I didn't.
Oh, but I was like, wow.
No, but in my head, I was like, okay, we're going to go through with this time. So we go and sit down for dinner and I'm just like trying to make him like comfortable asking him questions. Well, this guy starts to like delve into his whole life story and he starts to share that he's been like having ringing in his ear and stuff like that. And, he's just like talking about it. I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. And basically shares his whole life trauma. And I'm like, how are we here? I feel like I'm in like a counseling session. And at the end, I was like, can I pray for your ear? He's like, yeah, I'd really like that. And so we pray like in the restaurant for his ear, like a healing session, basically.
Yes.
And then at the end, he was like,
revival broke out.
Yeah.
Yep. The restaurant got saved.
Really sweet guy, though. Like, really sweet. He was like, you can have anything on the menu, which is really
very sweet.
So at the end, we were walking and he's like, hey, you want to get ice cream? And I was like, oh, I gotta like get home. Yeah, I gotta get going. And it was like 8. It had been like 50-minute date. And so he walked me back to his place and asked me for a second date. And I was like, I just don't think so. I don't think this will work. So anyways, that's kind of my catfish date. And it's kind of pathetic and sad and precious man. But I was just like, you got to be true to who you are. That's already a turn off. I'm like, what are you trying to hide?
Pictures.
I need some recent pics of you. So I need to know what I'm getting myself into. So there you go.
Especially if you're Callie, because Callie changes every 2 years.
Honestly, true. Callie has like 10 different photos that look like different people. Gotta be relevant.
I've been sticking with the same look for like a couple of years though recently. So, but it's true. I showed someone a picture of when I was like 18 and they were like, what? Like a bob with like bleach blonde hair.
Yeah. So
it was a good look.
Platinum Callie.
And Callie's not trying to catfish people. She just literally changes her look. Like,
I just get bored.
It just is what it is.
After a certain amount of time, I'm like, switch it up.
Lauren and I probably could use photos from like 8 years ago and be fine.
Absolutely could.
We look identical. I mean, we look hotter now.
Oh,
we look hotter now, I'd
we
say.
have gotten hotter, yeah.
Like a fine wine.
Fine wine. And I'm like, yeah, there's a wrinkle or two, but we're looking great.
But Lauren did go through a blonde phase for a little bit.
No, half blonde.
Yeah.
Like,
Sorry,
it was
half
like
blonde.
literally someone actually, it looked like they just bleached like the bottom half of me and there was like a line around my head. It was so bad. I thought it was cool.
I saw the picture though, and you had pink lipstick on too, so that really threw me.
Oh yeah, that picture
I don't know if I've ever
great.
seen you with
I
lipstick.
hardly wear chapstick. I hardly wear chapstick these days. Okay, so let's get into online dating, y'all.
Yes, it's true.
Dre,
I know I could have kept going with that, but
we're like, is this time for us or for the audience? So, okay.
Sorry, guys. Back to you all. So I have come across a lot of people, I feel like Christians especially, who are just against online dating. Like they're like, I don't want that to be my story. Like that would be the worst thing ever if I had to meet somebody online. And I think all of us, I mean, I don't know if any of us were that dramatic, but all of us were against online dating. Like we definitely held out on it. I'm the first one who caved. I'll admit it.
Yeah,
I'll admit
it. You did.
But I think what happened for me was like, yeah, I was against it because honestly, I think I could relate to people that were like, I just don't want that to be my story. You know, like, I'm like, I don't want to tell my grandkids we met online. But, but then I think a couple things happened. I had some friends that started to do online dating just like through the apps. I think this was like when the apps were kind of becoming more popular. And I just remember feeling like, dang, I'm like sitting around waiting for a guy to ask me out, which happens like every 2 years at the, best. Like I wasn't like, I don't know, I wasn't at the time meeting a lot of people or getting asked out. So I was like, but they're like going on dates and they're, it's not, it wasn't like they were like, I don't think either of them met their spouses on there, but they at least like were getting some practice in and like having some movement and having conversations and so I think that kind of planted it in my head. And then I started interning for this like organization that put out a lot of relationship and healthy dating content, and I started writing the content, and so I'm like, I can't just like pull this out of nowhere. Like I'm like, this is what it looks like to have to be like a healthy dater, but like I haven't been on a date in forever, but like good luck you guys, And so that was kind of the last like thing that made me decide, all right, I'm going to just do this. I'm going to get on. And honestly, my goal, like I did not think I would find like my spouse on there. Like my goal was honestly just to get out there and like create some movement and like get some content. And it's not like that's my only, it's not like I would have been like, no, sorry, buddy. Like if you want to marry me, like I've only really been on here for the blog post material. Like I was for sure.
I'm just here for the fans. That's it. It's not about me.
I was for sure open to something like actually happening, but that just wasn't my main. I don't know. I was pretty like cynical. I did not think it was going to happen. So but yeah, that's what kind of pushed me over the edge with online dating. And what about you guys? I think Lauren was next to cave, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, all three of my siblings met their significant others through online dating. So I was so against it. I was like, I'm never, because I want to be the unique sibling. And, you know, I just did not like that storyline at all. So I was very prideful of just like, no, this is not how I'm going to meet my person. Also, I really didn't want to put the investment into it. But then here I am, like, not really dating, and I wanted to date. And so I think that felt like a very, I think I just had to humble myself of being like, a lot of people are meeting their significant others or their spouses through this. It's my three siblings, and they're all in happy marriages. And so, like, why can't God use that? Like, why can't God use that storyline? Like, it's only my pride that's getting in the way of that storyline. And so, and I'm like, if I want to date and be married, I've got to try different ways and avenues to do that. And so, I think that's when I started to get on. I used Hinge, Bumble a little bit, Coffee Meets Bagel. I felt most successful with Coffee Meets Bagel and Hinge specifically for me. I know we've got some Tinder people out there, and there's Christian Mingle, and there's like other things I'm like, what? But I really liked Coffee Meets Bagel, and I really liked Hinge most of all right now. But something that like helped me, I think, open me up to online dating as well is Dre passed along this book that wrecked me in a good way. But the book is called, let's see, I just wrote it down. Oh,
it's called Marry Him.
It's called Marry Him, The Case for Settling for Mr. Goodenough by Lori Gottlieb. And it's not from a Christian author, but she basically it's amazing. You can listen to it on Spotify audio, but it helped me so much just like put into perspective dating and like what does dating look like and what does healthy dating look like. And one of the things that spoke to me the most was like, I'm so quick to sum up people when I'm doing online dating.
Mhm.
And I would be like, one thing I didn't like on their profile, I'd be like, nah, like I'm not gonna like talk to them at all. And I was like very focused on they have to have the perfect profile or say the perfect things for me to get to know them. And that book really diffused like being open to just like not writing someone off because of a couple of things that they say. Of course, like values are huge, like being Christian, or, you know, I'm not looking for someone who's like, yeah, like having inappropriate pictures on their profile. But I think at the same time, just because they say they like Star Wars and I'm not a Star Wars fan doesn't mean that's like all they do is watch Star Wars. Like, so like being open to getting to know different men really helped my journey and allowed for like a lot of really good dates from online dating. So that's a little bit. Callie, on to you.
Yes, I was the last one to cave. Held out as long as I possibly could. And then, you know, after not going on a date for a couple years, I was like, well, I guess it's time. It's come to this, which is funny because it's like
to this.
Oh my gosh.
Like you said, like so many people like meet that way, and it's like so normal now, but like for some reason it was just really stuck in my head like I'm not going to do that. But yeah, so I started with Bumble actually, and I liked doing that one because like the girl has to like basically break the wall because the guy can
break the ice.
Break the ice. That's us. Like
I like the wall. I like the wall.
What are they breaking here?
Break that wall.
It feels like a wall sometimes.
But it's like the guy usually like, well, whatever, like your profile, and then if you like it, like then you can talk. And so I just kind of liked that I had a say in who would talk to me. So it's not a bunch of people messaging you at once and getting like overwhelmed, especially if it's like people you're not interested in. It just was a good way to kind of filter people out. And I just made it like really low stakes because I was just like, I want to go like on a date. Like it had been a long time. And so I just wanted to create some movement, like you guys said. And so I just made it really easy, and I just went through, and honestly, how I'm wired, I can be very picky about what I like and what I don't like. But for this, I was just like really open-minded and was just like, you know what, like this person like has potential. And so I just like strike up a conversation and see what would happen. And so I like talked to like a lot more people than I was expecting to, but I was just approaching it from the stance of like, oh, this could be something, and we'll see if anything does pan out from it. And I went on a couple dates, and it was actually just really fun, and I got a lot more out of it than I expected to. But yeah, it just, like I said, it just lowered the stakes for me. It made it really practical, it made it really simple, and it just made me feel like, oh, I have a choice in how I like engage with men. I don't have to just like wait for something to happen, because I think if you're not dating online or if you're not meeting people, you can just kind of feel like a sitting duck, and you're just like, well, when will I get picked kind of a thing. And it's just kind of a powerless way to be. So if you want to create some movement, like online dating is a really practical, easy way to do that.
Yeah, for sure. And Callie, like I remember it had been even longer since you went on a date that you were actually excited to go on.
Yeah.
So that was cool too, is I was like, I remember you saying like, yeah, I'm actually excited to go on this first date. And I was like, oh my goodness.
Somebody roll out the red carpet. She's excited.
Amazing. Yeah.
I think you even showed us your outfit you were gonna wear.
I did.
And I was like, whoa, you look hot. I never looked Dre and I thought we never looked this good for any date. Like her first date, I was like, oh my gosh, I need to up my game.
And
but I feel like, oh, sorry, go ahead, Callie.
No, it was really funny because I was like excited for that date. So I like, I put some effort in it. And
she
then
looked good. She looked like a bachelorette. I was like,
she
whoa.
looked great. Yeah.
And then a couple months later, I went to coffee with somebody that I was like not excited about, and I wore like an oversized flannel and just like did not put in the same effort. And I was like, wow, the difference of when you're excited versus not excited. It's pretty evident.
It's so real. So real.
What were you gonna say, Andrea?
I was gonna say, I think part of that is because Lauren and I came from like families that are very like safety conscious, and so when we go on a first online date, I don't think they're as wild as ours are. Do you think so, Callie?
That my parents were as intense as your guys's?
Yeah, as about like safety and like getting kidnapped or something.
That's true. My family's like, you're gonna die.
Yeah,
like,
your guys's parents were on another level.
I don't tell them anything anymore. So as you,
just
they
live
listen.
my life
as they listen. So, but no, like Dre, that doesn't mean I try not to look good. I just like I don't know. I don't have like style that Callie has. Like,
but I feel like you and me come into a first date, at least for online, not in every first date, but for online, you and me come in like, okay, where are the exits? Like, where we are not even thinking about like being cute. We're thinking about like, all right, if he tries to like murder me, like, what's my exit plan?
Oh my gosh, it depends on the dude. So I'm
like that with every dude.
I do investigation. See, I investigate. So because I investigate already before the date, I feel like overall good.
Maybe that's what I need to do.
I talk to their mom first, like,
As soon as I start feeling safe, I'm like, that's exactly how he would want me to feel.
It's all part of the plan.
Oh my gosh. Dre's the one that's had the most like successful dating out of all of us for online. So I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But okay, we're diverting.
Okay,
we need to focus.
Okay. So this is we're gonna go into an objection I've heard from a lot of Christians, which is, doesn't online dating mean you're not trusting God?
And you said, yes, that's exactly what it means.
Yeah, I did. I was like, the second I started online dating, I was like, well, God, I guess I'll take it from here.
Oh my goodness.
Oh man.
So good.
I've heard that a lot as well. So
yes, yeah, it's a real question that people ask, and
like you're taking control of your life, or you're taking control and not letting God, because you're going on this app and you're gonna choose who you date. Yeah,
you're not letting God bring someone into your life, divinely.
So what do you all think about that? Do you all agree?
Go ahead, Cal.
I've like wrestled with this like in the past, because I definitely was like, I don't want to meet someone online. Like, I'd love to meet someone organically and just like have it work out. Like, who doesn't want that? But I'm like, honestly, like, God can use anything. I'm like, feel free to interrupt my life at any point. Or if I'm like on an app and you tell me to get off of it, like, I'll get off of it. But it's just like, I think that that's a very narrow view of how to do dating. If you're like, well, only trusting God looks like this other thing. I'm like, in today's culture, this is like one of the main ways people are meeting each other. And I've heard some people be like really against online dating. And I'm like, well, honestly, like it's really nice that you got to meet your husband, your wife in person. Like, but that was 15 years ago. And I'm like, a lot has changed in that time. And so things just look different now. And don't shame people for meeting each other this way. Like, there's nothing shameful about it. So yeah, I don't think that by online dating, it's saying like you're not trusting God. I think that that's silly. So yeah.
Good stuff. I'm glad. Thank you for admitting that you wrestled with this.
Yes, I did.
Lauren, have you wrestled with this question?
I think it was the idea I want my story to look a certain way, which is with dating in general. Like I would have been married at like age 20 if I could have controlled my story. And so I think it's knowing my story is probably going to look, or God, my story with God is obviously looking really different than what I wanted anyways. And so I think it's surrendering to like, God can use any avenue. There's so many incredible couples that I've met through online dating that love God, that are serving his kingdom, that have healthy marriages and families. So I'm like, if you want to use this avenue, go for it, God. Like there's so many ways we try to control our lives outside the dating apps. It's not like I'm saying I don't trust you, God. I'm actually like, I trust that in my power, I'll do whatever I can. I'll do my part, and then God will do the rest. And it sounds so cliche. I'm like, is that a Rick Warren quote or something? It just is like, I'm going to keep participating in my faith. Like I'm going to keep leaning in and trying all different types of ways of dating, because I do want to be married and I do want that intimacy with my partner. And so I'm like, if it's through dating or dating apps, great. If it's through another way, great. Like, and I think God can use so many different ways. Like maybe you all know I started to date a guy just from seeing his profile pic on Hinge. And then I had a mutual friend that went to his church. We got connected through my mutual friend, not through Hinge really, just saw his picture. And then we dated for like 2 months. And so you just never know like how God could even use it as a tool. And so, and I was so encouraged by some of my like conversations I've had on dating apps. Like I've talked a ton. I feel like I'm talking all the time about God with different people. So there's like really cool things that are happening. So through our dating apps, if you want to use that as a way to connect with God and connect with others. So I don't know. Andrea.
That's good.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I've done a lot of evangelism that I thought was going to be dating, but then I was like, you know what? Actually, what you need is the gospel. Not
and I'm going to give it to you.
And I'm going to give it to you.
Oh my gosh. The best evangelism app is online dating.
Is Bumble.
I will say the three of us have all talked about how a lot of our like dating is turned into evangelism or like people that don't know the Lord will find us and we're like, why? Or like, how does this always happen? You know?
So many things.
So many things.
A pastor on Hinge. No.
That should be in your bio. Hinge pastor.
Hinge pastor.
So gross. So gross. Wait, but Dre, do you think people trust God or not if they use the apps?
Since I already gave my sarcastic answer, I will seriously say that I think same thing that you guys said. I think you're still trusting God. I mean, all of like life is you doing your best and then like letting God cover the rest with his grace.
Right.
You know?
Put that on a book.
Our phrases. That's what our phrases today.
I wasn't trying to rhyme. I literally was just trying to say what's in my head. But I think
such a good tagline.
It's not that good. Here's what I really want to say is Dr. Henry Cloud. I've already said this before, but I'm going to say it again.
The only person you know how to quote.
Yes, he loves Dr. Henry Cloud.
Please. I'm crying. If you're out there, please come on this podcast. You have no idea how much you've helped me. I had no idea how to date before I read your books. Okay, anyway.
Okay, we're ready. We're ready to listen.
He gives the analogy of like, if you want a job, you're not just going to sit around all day and wait for somebody to call you up and be like, hey, I want to hire you. Like, I mean, you can do that, but you're going to go out and apply for a job. And people wouldn't say like, oh, you're applying for jobs? Like, why aren't you trusting God? You know, it's like, no, like you take steps towards things and then, yeah, like Lauren said, even though it's cliche, you do your part and then you trust that God is going to show up for you, you know, and do his part. So, yeah, 100%. You just take practical steps and it's the same as applying for a job or just going after things that you want, you know? And I mean, I don't think you have to do it perfectly. Like nobody does it perfectly, but that's the beauty of it is God has always been able to make his plan happen in the midst of us like just doing our best, you know.
Good.
So yeah. Okay, I feel like we covered that, right?
Yeah, for sure. A lot
Okay.
of good quotes there.
Check. Yeah.
So now we're gonna get into like just some tips and some like, I guess, strategy, if you want to call it that. But just ways that we go about this in case you have never tiptoed into the world of online dating. We'll be like your friends sitting around the table telling you like, here's what I would do if this is the first time you're like setting up a profile or going through other people's profiles. So we'll talk a little bit about like some things we look for, but when all of us do this, when we set up our own profile, we all say that we're Christian.
Yep.
So, and I thought that everyone did that, but that's not true because
Right, it's not true.
Well, I mean, we've all run into people that we actually know from church that don't label themselves as Christian, and we're like, okay, interesting. And then we've all been on dates with people that do label themselves as Christian, and we're like, wait, actually, we're not on the same page about what that means.
Yeah.
So, but we'll start with just asking like, why. I'll ask you two, why do you put Christian on your profile?
Lauren?
Yeah, for me, I mean, so you not only do you put like I'm Christian, but you can then put on your profile depending on the app and if you have to pay or not. So Hinge I found is to have been the easiest. I think Bumble you have to pay to like have that same, but I only will talk to guys who are labeling as Christian just because I'm like, okay, that's just like one way to know for sure, like that can be a starting point, and then you can go from there with conversations. Because to me, it's like there's so many different people, so many different backgrounds. I will look specifically for Christian, and even when people say open to all religions or whatever, I'm usually pretty strict because I only have so much time in a day to figure out like who I'm going to date. And so it's a big deal for me of like, I think we're wasting each other's time. And then to me, I already know just even having that label of Christian can mean so many things. There are so many different theologies or ways about thinking about God and Christianity even under that. And so I think that's where I just start to, if I'm starting to connect with someone, I ask a lot more questions of like their church background, the relationship with God, like what does that look like? And they're usually asking me as well, but I don't have it where I'm open to like all religions, because for me, I do want to date and marry someone who follows Jesus. But then also I can see, and I've heard from different friends, and I understand where they're coming from is they're Christian, but they don't want to be like considered a religious Christian. They want to be more like, I'm a follower of Jesus. So that conversation will happen when it needs to happen. And so some people think that can happen a little bit more organically, where for me, it's kind of like, no, I really want you to know, like, this is a priority of like who I talk to and date. And that's like our starting point. I don't want to have to get weeks or months down the road and then we're talking about Jesus. Like I already want that to be like kind of the starting point. So that's some of the reasons why that's how I do it.
Yeah, that's good. Cal?
Yeah. For me, I'm like, I don't know how other people are with Christianity, but for me, it's like everything. It's not like a hobby, which I don't think you can just have Jesus like on the side part of your life. I think he's either like it or he's not. And so for me on there, I'm like, yeah, I have to put Christian. And then I think in my last profile I did, like I expounded on it a little bit and I just said like, hey, I really love Jesus. Like, if you're not interested in that, like, I'm not the girl for you, just frankly. Because
I've done something like that too.
Yeah.
Me too.
Like,
yep.
Come on.
An added layer.
Ladies.
We've all added a layer.
I've added layers. That's good, Cal. Keep going with it. That's good.
Because I'm just like what you said, Lauren. I don't want to waste your time. And you can find out really quickly where someone stands on that, like just in a couple conversations. So I'm like, I just want people that are like serious about this. And if you're not, like, I don't know why you would want to be talking to me anyways. So
Right.
yeah, I just from the gate want people to know where I stand on it. And yeah, I don't know if I have a lot more than that, but
That's
Andrea,
great.
what do you got, girl?
Just kind of like what Lauren was saying made me think of this, but dating is a very unique relationship. Like you're literally trying to figure out if you can be together for the rest of your life. So it's not like you're saying, well, if you're not a Christian, like I won't talk to you at the post office, you know, like it's like
Totally.
That's not what we're saying. Like it's like, no, be friends with non-Christians, like hang out with non-Christians, like by all means. But like when you're thinking about somebody that you're gonna spend the rest of your life with and raise children with and make the rest of your decisions with forever, like it's
So
okay
intense.
it's okay to have some stipulations around that, you know? Like
Oh
it's
my
like,
gosh, yes.
Stipulations.
Yeah, that was a $10 word for you all. But
Thank you.
anyway, we were just kind of talking about how people like don't want to eliminate people, and you know, so they want to have like all this really like wide range of what they'll like accept. And it's like, no, that's the whole deal, is you only pick one person, so you are eliminating people.
Yeah.
So anyway, yeah.
Wait, I'm curious, more of a tangent, but what are some of the things you've all said as extras for besides Christian on your profiles? What are some of the things you've said?
I think I said I'm looking for someone who loves Jesus.
Yeah.
I just said something like that.
Yeah, I just said like I really love Jesus. Like he's like the main like priority in my life, or something like that. To be like, yeah, he's not a hobby that I have.
Right.
Yeah.
What about you, Lauren?
I've said a typical Sunday looks like brunch, church.
Let's go.
You know,
That's
and
right.
so I add church in for sure because I'm like, that's a big deal. And then I think I've also said something like, yeah, like Jesus is my everything, you know, kind of like it's Jesus, okay, like not some other God. So
it's not Buddha.
Yeah, so very specific with my who I'm following, the Christian God. So, anyways,
the Christian God.
The Christian God. So specific. So,
and if I see a guy on his profile that says Jesus is my everything, like instant melt. I'm like,
it honestly does help because it feels a little bit bold. Like to me, it just feels. I mean, of course, then I'm also like, if they say too many Christian things, then I'm also, it's too much. And so it's weird. It's a fine line because you all, I literally had this dude start talking to me. Every other sentence was scripture or scripture referenced when he was talking to me. And it was too much. I was like, I can't. I like the Bible, but literally all we're talking is like crazy scripture references. And it was like so intense. So you can be also on that side of like too much. So it's like a nice, like in the middle of like, I love God, but I also like am a runner and love brunch, you know? And you're like, oh my goodness.
Love brunch.
You love brunch too and God? Whoa.
Yeah.
Very good. Very good.
So good.
Yeah. Good point, Lauren. You still want somebody normal.
Yes.
That's it. I think I just want a normal person.
Yeah. Whoa. No, for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Put that on your profile. I'm just looking for a normal person.
Just
leave it
be
at that.
Normal.
Some
just
dude actually told me that. He's like, it's refreshing. You just look like a normal girl. And I was kind of offended.
You're like, ow.
I was like, I want to be like a hot girl or like a cool girl, not a normal girl. But I kind of knew what he meant.
Yeah.
So a couple things I try to look for when I'm checking out guys on these apps. Of course, there's certain things that I personally value, and I know you all have different things that you're drawn to, but we were all just talking earlier is there's some things that we're like, oh, these are immediate turnoffs. And I would say like for me overall, shirtless pictures, unless it's tasteful. And then if they are doing selfies of themselves, like in the mirrors,
it's super awkward.
Can't, or when they do like a smoldery face because it just doesn't feel normal and they're trying to be hot, but it's like not hot. And so, yeah, I just need like, just be yourself, like be normal, like what you would do, you know, like activities with their families. We do like the ones with families. another thing is when a guy has a picture with another girl that looks like it could be his ex-girlfriend or girlfriend. I honestly, even if it's a sister, and it's a hot sister, I guess, it's like weird.
It's a hot sister.
Yeah,
Because you're like, who is this?
You're like,
Who is
he's
this?
holding that sister awfully close.
That waist, holding his waist. So anyways, I just think those are like, hey, like these are some tips. Like probably don't have a picture with like a lot of hot other girls because it feels like, what are you trying to do? You know, like, I don't know. Guys are like, I can get a lot of hot girls to talk to me, I guess. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
So
Not attractive.
A feedback
I feel
got.
like I have seen guys on there with like multiple hot girls. Like,
Yeah,
and
I
they
don't
all
know,
went to the lake or something. And you're like, I don't know
This
what
is weird.
message you're trying
it's
to
a
send
little
in.
Really
awkward.
weird.
And I'm always like, what's wrong with those
Yeah.
5 women that you're in with this picture? Like,
Yeah,
what
like,
am I
why
going to
are you
have
done?
Why
that
are
they
you
don't
dating
have?
them?
Yeah,
So-
exactly. I'm like, these women are gorgeous. Like, pick one.
Yeah. I think also something, and this actually helped me with, I think it was the book I was mentioning earlier, but this idea of like, it's when people have like a lot of wording, it's easy to ride them off because you can find maybe 1 or 2 things you don't relate on. And so it's just easy to be like, oh, well, I don't game or I don't do this.
Yeah.
And so immediately I'm like, and no. But the thing is, I'm like, oh, people could do that same thing to me. So I've actually been a little bit more strategizing because I think there is a strategy to online dating, which Dre will talk about more. But I try to do less words because then that means they have to talk to me more to create more conversation to actually really know me and not just sum me up by my profile. So
Yeah.
I try not to sum up guys by their profile, but there are some things I'm like, oh yeah, that is kind of like a turn off if you're doing that. But we talked, just moments before of like when they talk about God, that is helpful. Of like, oh, they actually want to talk openly about their relationship with God, and that is really helpful. So yeah, those are some thoughts.
Callie loves the gym selfies. She was saying earlier.
Yeah, it's my favorite. Those and guys with pictures of fish, which are everywhere.
And
it's
guns.
And it's
They all
not
have
just
guns.
Montana. It is literally everywhere. I remember
It is everywhere.
Andrea was like, what is it with the guys and the fish? There was
Actually
like,
I
so
made a
many.
whole like collage of screenshots of guys holding up fish because I was like, is it just me? And then I started like trying to collect them, and I had a whole screenshot just of screenshots.
And I'm never impressed by those pictures. I mean, I'm sure they're proud and maybe it's something that they love to do, but I'm never impressed by their fish pictures. So
here's what I will say.
My thing.
Here's what I'll say on behalf of the men, because I've heard people argue this, is guys just don't take that many pictures.
They don't.
And one of the times they do is like
it's
when
with
they
a
catch
fish.
a fish.
So there's some like understanding and compassion
It's
for
true.
like, girls probably do really weird things. Like we like pucker our lips or like, do hand on the hip. So, we do weird things
I have to,
too.
tell myself not to post like just pictures with me and my cat.
Oh yeah, please don't. For our sake.
Lady would
you
get
represent
you some,
us.
Lady would get you some dates for sure. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh.
Also,
So
this
good.
is a random one too, but if your profile only has pictures with you wearing sunglasses, like,
dude, yeah,
It's a
it's
good
scary.
tip. It's a good tip.
it's not a like a deal breaker for me, but
And
I'm like,
hats.
what do you look like? Yeah. Like, what's your full face?
What are you hiding?
Why are you doing that? So that's just like, that's a random one.
Okay. Have you guys also run into like only group photos and you're like, I don't know who
who it is? I have had that.
Yes, me too.
I actually have not, but
Really?
Because then I'm also concerned if they're only individual photos, like only them, because I'm like, do you have any friends, any family? So it can
I do
go
look
opposite.
for friends. It's good to
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
at least some with your friends, but you can't have
one
every single one
friend.
because we don't know which one you are.
No, you have to do a couple of just you, and then a couple to show that you're like a human, like you're social,
Yeah,
or like
out in the
you
wild.
you have an activity that you can do, besides
Yeah,
eating.
for sure.
They all have eating.
Besides eating.
Me and my burger.
My burger. Man,
Callie,
I
were you
think
gonna say? Okay, yeah.
yes, I was gonna say something. But it's basically what Lauren said of just don't be quick to sum somebody up. Even if someone has something on their profile that you're like, oh, okay, that I'm not super into, like Star Wars was your example. Like,
Yeah.
who cares? Like, these are just like this is just like a taste tester of what this person is. It's just like a few things that they like, or maybe it's a lot of things they like, depending on how many words they use. But you can't know someone that you've never talked to, like based on a couple pictures and some sentences. Like, you just have no idea. And there's also been people for me that, like, in real life I met and initially wasn't like super into, but after getting to know them, I was like, oh, actually, like, I really like this person. So you never know. You don't have to go overboard and give every single person a chance on an app, but you can be open to an extent. So that's what I'd say.
Actually, just say something with that, Kelly. I do think there needs to be a level of interest or excitement or attraction when it comes to furthering. And so if there is not one of those three, then don't pursue it. Just like end it. Like, don't force yourself just because you're like, I need to date someone or like try something. Like, you want to be excited. It should feel fairly easy, especially in the beginning, and there should be like some type of flow and attraction to that person. And so I don't know, those are some things I'm looking for, is like, hey, is it pretty easy to communicate with this person? Is there an attraction level? Even it doesn't have to be huge, because you really don't know fully until you meet in person. If there's a vibe between you two. But I think that drawing piece of like, oh, there's something going on here, that does help with the apps. You have to have that, because you're literally going from ground zero to talking to this stranger.
Yeah. But at the same time, don't expect it to feel like a crush right away. Like,
no,
like
unless you're me.
Lauren's
I
had
get
that
crushes
expectation.
Hardcore. You know that, Dre. Dre, you're opposite of me in this. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's the one.
If but like, just from their profile, you get a crush?
Yeah, totally. Dre, you know this about me.
What percentage of the time do you get a crush on someone from just their profile?
After I read that book, now I'm like
depleted.
It opened the pool way more. But I would like only talk to guys I was like, you're really attractive, or like, I'm drawn to you.
Oh, I would never talk to anybody if I based it off that.
So this is where we're different, Dre. This is where we're different.
Yeah.
I think because attraction is like, I have to have like some humor, and like there's so much like personality stuff that I have to have.
I'm vain, I think.
Lauren's like, it's only about looks for me.
It's only about looks. I must be vain. I must be vain. Oh no.
I will say something else from that book.
Yeah.
And this is kind of like just, I don't know, maybe challenging the ladies a little bit, but like, I feel like people go in there sometimes and they're like, I need someone who eats healthy, works out, has a great job, is like, has a million friends, and is also super smart and winning trivia nights all the time, and like, they just have this list.
Trivia nights.
So specific.
So specific.
I'm like, what would someone really smart be doing? I don't know.
This is Dre's dream guy.
But then it's like, okay, well, do you work out all the time?
Yeah.
Are you winning trivia? Like, it's like
constantly.
Come on, like, call it out, Dre.
Yeah, if you turn that list back around on yourself, are you checking off all the boxes you're requiring of somebody else? Because like Callie and I have talked about this, because Lauren is like a freaking CrossFit coach. Like, she's super fit. Like, I'm like, Lauren, if Lauren wants someone fit, like, go for it.
Yeah.
But I am not going to go on a Hinge being like, oh, you don't work out? Like, absolutely not. Because I'm like, when's the last time I worked out? Like, does walking the dog count? I don't know.
No, it's so true.
Go, Cal.
And just like, like Lauren, that is her lifestyle, and she wants somebody that will do that with her. So like, that makes total sense. But yeah, if you don't work out all the time, it's like, for me to require that of somebody else is just like a double standard. So
totally. Yeah. And everybody's going to have flaws. Like, so you just have to decide like which flaws do you want to put up with, because like you're not going to find somebody who is just perfect in every way and, you know, has like all of the things. So anyway, yeah.
Tangent, but important.
But
I liked
also
it.
what I learned from that book.
I felt convicted. I'm gonna
about
stop
working out. Yeah,
I'm gonna stop working out.
If you can give that up, get a different job.
Dre, I actually would love for you to talk a little bit about your strategy for online dating, because one thing Dre was mentioning earlier, she mentioned this a while ago, a couple of years ago, but you know, she would be okay waiting a couple days to like reply to someone, or she'd be okay if they took a couple days. Where me, I like, if they didn't reply within a day, I was like, this is done. Like, we're not talking, because I was impatient or insecure about that. I really wanted quick momentum, and not saying that always works. So Andrea, I'd love to hear your strategy of like your conversations with guys and how that's worked out for you.
Tell us.
Yeah. So in my head, you have to earn access to me. So if you are a stranger that I just met on an online dating app, like you have not earned the level of access where like I'm going to respond to your messages right away. Like for my friends and my family, like for sure I respond to their messages right away. But for people I don't know, it's like I don't even have notifications turned on for Hinge. So I'll check it like maybe once or twice a day. I'm not on there right now, by the way. Sorry to break your guys' hearts out there, but
Dang it.
People scrolling Hinge right now. Andrea, Allie, not on here.
You're gonna have to find another way, boys. But anyway, so it's that in my head is like, it's just like because otherwise I get exhausted. Like it's because I'm just like all full-time the time. Job. Yeah, it's a full-time job. Like trying to talk to these people that I don't even know. And so that's why I would take like maybe a day to respond, or I don't try to drag it out super long, but yeah, I'll take maybe a day. And then if they take a couple days, it's fine, because I'm like, yeah, we don't know each other that well yet. Like I'm not expecting you to reply to my text messages like I'm your mom, you know? So, that's kind of, I guess how I am with like just response time and stuff on there. And it's funny because I also had another friend that said she didn't like if they wanted to talk for a while. Like she just wanted to go meet them in person right away. And I was like, I don't want to meet guys in person right away, because there's so many on there that I feel like I'd have to be going on dates. And then when I meet a guy in person, I feel like I need to give him at least like an hour, you know?
Yep.
And so I'm like, I want to make sure I'm not just going to sit there like, and we have nothing to talk about for an hour, you know? Like, or just totally. I'm going to like hate my life for an hour. And so like if you might have in your head like, well, if a guy doesn't do this, or if a guy does do this, then that means this and he's a no. Like it's like you don't actually know, you know? Like maybe there's like a lot of different reasons somebody would do stuff, but like if a guy wants to talk to you for a while first, like that's fine. If a girl needs more time, especially guys, I feel like guys, like it's more vulnerable. Let's just say it. It's more vulnerable to go on an online date as a girl. Like 100% it is. So your job is to make her feel safe. So if she's not ready to go on a date after you've talked for 24 hours, like then give her more time. I've asked for more time before. I've asked for more time before, which you could totally do. Ask for what you need. And if he writes you off because of that, then it's like, okay, whatever. Like,
good decision.
Sorry. Actually, I'd like to add on to that. There was a specific guy that I was like, you are doing such a great job with online dating. And he would basically just ask for permission. He'd be like, hey, would you feel comfortable if we had a FaceTime date? No pressure. But if is that something you'd be interested in doing? And the way he worded it was just so like you do not have to do this if you don't feel comfortable. Like, I don't want to put you in that position. And he was like that throughout the whole time of us getting to know each other. Even like, would you be comfortable of us having like an in-person date? Like, this is what it would look like. You know, we'd meet at a cafe or da da da. And I just loved the respect and just the pacing and him taking initiative of like, I'm here to value and protect your time and protect you. And it was so reassuring. So yeah. Good job. I wish I could name him, but I'll let him be a mystery. Good job, man. Keep it up. I hope you have a girlfriend.
Would not be surprised.
He's making somebody feel safe right now.
He must be a policeman. He should be.
Oh my gosh.
Anyways.
I can share a little bit, maybe some more strategies.
Yeah, please.
For sure. You are the strategy.
Andrea has like basically a little mini booklet on it that we will be selling after this podcast.
We're seriously
so
like,
honestly, stay tuned.
Andrea's gotten like legit dates and a boyfriend or two from this. So, I mean,
yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
Tried and true.
Tried and true. By the way, I almost wrote one of those guys off because of something he said in his profile. But I was like, nope, I'm not going to write him off because of this.
Wait,
I had to make a conscious decision.
Can you say what it was?
The one you almost wrote off. I don't want to say what it was. But it was something. Yeah, it was something really like trivial.
Okay.
But anyway, yeah, something that he was interested in, and I was like, what?
Like fishing.
But anyway. We dated for a while, so all that to say, that did not automatically mean that we had nothing in common.
There you go.
But okay, so a couple things that I've done to help myself, because it's a different culture on there, and you can't expect that people are gonna all treat you the way that you want to be treated.
Yeah,
because
true. There's different games. There's different rules on online dating.
Yeah. People will ghost you way more often than they would if you had mutual friends or like met in a work scenario or something like that. People will disappear for no reason and conversation will just fall off. It's just people like can be really flaky on there. And so like, you just kind of have to be like, okay, what am I in control over? Like, who am I going to be on this app? Because I have no control over who these guys are going to be. The only person I have control over is myself. So how can I, build trust? How can I give this person like a legitimate chance instead of just writing them off? Like, how can I, golden rule them? How can I treat them the way that I would like to be treated, and just decide that you're going to be the type of person that you would like to find on that app, and don't just, because if you're coming in there with all these high expectations for how the guys are going to act on there, like it's such a just wide spectrum. I mean, there's some great people on there, don't get me wrong, but it's just right. Exactly. You're looking at them / listening. But anyway, so that was one thing, is I was like, okay, who am I going to be? And sometimes that means like you're the one risking continuing the conversation, or you're the one asking more questions, or you're the one that's being curious and it may not feel like they're reciprocating or you're the one that's creating momentum, like it's just like, sometimes you just have to be that person. Otherwise you're in this like stagnant place where it's like nobody wants to step out and like initiate or risk or anything. So, and then the other thing I did to help myself is I literally like attached numbers to it, and I made hitting a certain number my goal, which I'll explain because this already sounds like.
No, I like it.
What
is
like
a sales pitch?
I'm intrigued. Tell me the data.
So I would be like, okay, my goal is to talk to 3 different guys this week, and each guy, I'm going to ask him at least 5 questions. Like, no matter if he asks me anything in return, like if he disappeared, then that was one thing. But if he just didn't ask questions back, like there's a lot of guys who just don't know how to ask questions back. So
Truth.
Yep.
yeah. So I was just like, okay, 3 guys, 5 questions each. And then at the end of 5 questions, if I don't feel like we have momentum going, then I'll just let it die.
This is so good.
But I'm gonna hit that mark of 5 questions before I decide, because people just want it to be easy right away, and it's not gonna be easy right away because you've never met this person.
Stranger.
So yeah. And I feel like I'm repeating myself from another episode, but in case you didn't hear that episode, I still believe the same things. Like, you have to go in there and create momentum. It's not, you can't just expect to like have a crush on somebody right away. I mean, Lauren can, but I
do. I crush easily.
That's okay. Side note, that's another thing, is knowing yourself, because I'm wired like Andrea, where like it takes me a while to like crush on somebody, or even like it's pretty rare if I initially see somebody and I'm like, oh, I'm attracted to you. So it takes time and takes questions. And whereas Lauren, like it can be instant, and she's just like, oh, okay, cool. So it's just like knowing yourself and what you need to do for you is
and what's
really helpful.
Wise. Because for instance, like when I first started online dating, I like fell in love with so many guys, and one guy I was stoked on, and Andrea from the beginning was like, Lauren, you got to keep this low stakes. Like you got to rein it in. And I didn't. And I fell hard for this person, and that person, literally the day we were gonna go on a date, I was like so stoked. He canceled on me and was like, no, actually I'm interested in someone else. And I was like so brokenhearted. And I just think of Andrea, and I was like, Andrea was freaking right. She was just like, this isn't the same thing as in person, like because there's no consequences, and there's fantasy as well. Like you do make a fantasy of that human because you're not in real life with them. You're usually not in community with them. And so there's like, it's a whole different culture when it comes to online dating. So I learned my lesson hard. I was so sad.
That's a good point though, Lauren, is you are totally you're falling for a fantasy. Like, especially if you have not met this person in person
and some of their little personality things, and maybe some phone calls.
Yep.
And you're
filling in the blanks. Yep. You're filling in the blanks with whatever you want. So I
also Google them and find cool things about them, and I'm like, oh my gosh, they're the best. They're out of my league.
Oh my goodness. But yeah. I was also gonna say, Callie and I both have stories of like guys that we literally would not have given a second glance, but because they were so funny and like had such great personalities, we like fell hard for them.
Yep.
So I don't even fully trust myself like my first glance, because I'm like, I don't know, with the right humor, man, he could really hook me.
It's good to know.
Andrea, once she and I were talking about a guy I was like kind of crushing on. I was like, physically I'm not super into it or into him, and Andrea was like, but he's so funny. I was like, I know. And that won out in the end for me. So if you're really funny, come our way.
Because if you're just laughing and having a good time all the time, like then you start associating that person and how they look with that like fun, and then your heart starts to soften towards them. So look out.
Look out. All right, Andrea, where are we with the strategies? What else you got?
Okay, I was trying to think of if I had. Oh, this is the last thing. Well, we won't say the last thing. For now, this is the last thing I'll say, is there are a lot of people that get on these apps and they just kind of, they do it halfway. And I was going to say half-ass it, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say that on the podcast.
Say it. Say it
loud. People get on there and they
don't want to put the effort in.
Sorry, Mom.
They want things to be easy.
Jeannie.
Yes. Yeah.
They want it to just be like, and boom, we're in love and married. Like,
So they flake out all the time, and then they complain that they're not getting any results. And it's like, no, you had 10 women that you just flaked out on. Like, any one of them could have been a great date. You have no idea because you want it to be easy right away. So if you're going to be on there, don't get on there for an ego boost. I feel like people do that too. They just want like a million people to like their profile. And it's like, if you need an ego boost, like, I don't know, listen to like a podcast or something where they're pumping you up.
Any social media, people can get that there. Like,
go on social media. Yeah. Don't go on the dating apps for that.
Yeah.
But if you're going to go on a dating app, just commit to the process. Like, commit to getting to know people and asking them questions and being curious and just genuinely like, trying to go on dates and create momentum and practice being on a date and respecting the person in front of you. And this is similar to what we've said in the past, but don't get on there like just trying to figure out right away, like, are you going to be useful to me or not? Like, it is the worst thing ever when you're sitting on a date with someone and you can tell that they're just like, they're like, they have like a list in their head and they're like trying to check off some boxes or something with you instead of treating you like a human being. So just decide how you're going to treat people. Hopefully it's with integrity and then commit to being that person. And you're probably going to have to be the bigger person a lot on that app.
Yeah.
And it's fine. Just accept it.
Build that character.
And
there are good people out there because we started this podcast sharing. We're on there. And also
we haven't said it before.
And also
we're on there.
We've seen success. Like, we've seen people fall in love. Like, there's this couple at the gym and they're the cutest couple ever. And I will not name their names, even though I want to. And I was like asking him, I was like, how did you meet your wife again? He's like, I met her on a dating app and they're so in love. And they're an older couple. Like, they're probably near their later 40s and when they met, and they're both each other's first marriages. And it's just like, you're so happy for them. You're like, this is awesome. Like, and it was because of a dating app that they met. And so
I love that.
That's where I'm like, yes, because I get excited for these people. So yes, there's success from these things.
And to circle back to the story thing, like, you get to create your own story. Like, you meet someone on an app, great, but then you're gonna create all these different memories and stories together, and you're gonna have plenty of stories to tell your grandkids.
It's the tool to meet each other and then you create the story.
Yeah, because otherwise it's like your story's gonna be, I never met anyone because I stayed in my house and never took any risks. So that's an even worse story.
Yeah. There are worse stories.
I feel like I just got mommed by Andrea. She's like, let me tell you.
I know. I don't know why I'm feeling really mommy in this.
You're
I'm momming
mommy. Mommy it.
Mommy-ish.
I did want to note this before we wrap up this time, is I care a lot about safety. It's just like a big thing to me.
Tell us,
I just heard a recent story of like a really almost like dangerous online dating situation, and not to live in fear. I just think it's just to live in wisdom, so
totally.
a couple of the things, it's not like we don't date or use the apps. It's just being smart. And so I'm actually pretty careful of like what information I give, because it's really easy for me to find, for personally, how to find a guy online. So all I do, my strategy is I find their name, their job, and then I put in their town, and usually I can find them on LinkedIn within minutes. And so I actually get concerned after talking with a guy for a little bit. There was one guy I talked to for a while and I couldn't find anything on him through Google or online. He was like, oh, I'm not on any social media. And everything he gave me, I still was not able to find out information after talking with a week with him. And I ended up not going on a date with him because I didn't feel good in my gut, first of all. But I was like, there's something off here. Like, you're there. And he lived 2 hours away and wanted to meet up like halfway. And that was just like, my spirit was just like, no, I don't feel good about this. Like, so I think it's like just being smart of like what information you give and when. And it's okay if you give them your Instagram or whatever. It's just like, you want to know that like this is really the person that I'm talking to across from. And so I'm really careful of like them not knowing where I live. And so I'll always meet in person for a couple times until I feel like, okay, I know this person is who they say they are. And then I will have them, maybe pick me up or I'll start going on dates where, yeah, it's so nice to have a guy take you on a date, like in his car, but and I just want to know, like, they really are who they say they are. And so I'll even like find websites like where they work and all of that. And it sounds like, does that sound creepy? I don't think so. I think it's literally because you have no other context for who they are and where they're from. And so you have to like, as a woman, be able to make sure that you're safe. And so another thing I do, especially more initial dating, is I tell my friends, some of them I'll like share with my friends. And I'm like, hey, I'm going on a date. This is where I'll be. Just so that they're like
share your location with them.
I was going to ask that.
I haven't done that before. I've more just like given a heads up. I don't know if that's the independence in me, but I think because I do enough research beforehand to feel comfortable to even go on that physical date with them. So usually I feel like, oh, they seem like they are who they are. So.
Yeah, for sure. And I would say meet up in a public place for your first date.
Yes.
Meet up at a coffee shop, like somewhere you feel comfortable. That's what I do. I don't pick like a random place I've never been before. I'm like, where's somewhere that I know people go? I know the layout. I might even know some of the staff, like it doesn't have to be that intense, but just enough that you're like, I feel comfortable in this space and there's going to be plenty of people around.
Yeah. Honestly, I've been dumb at like, I think of 2 or 3 dates where I've gone hiking as one of our first dates. And I'm like, that's stupid. Like, you're in the middle of the wilderness with and thankfully it all worked out. Like, they're fine.
Right. Yeah.
But it's like things like, I look back, I'm like, man, I probably shouldn't have done that. Like, I didn't have location. Like, I was by myself in the wilderness with the human.
Yeah. And you're like, no service potentially. So
yeah, potentially. So there's some things I've done that I'm like, yeah, that was dumb. So
yeah, that's why we're helping you guys out.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Well, any last thoughts, guys, before we wrap up?
I think for me, like, I was just thinking as we were talking is just, really connecting with God on this, because there's sometimes we've all felt like, no, it's not good for my heart to be on the apps. But also if you're really wanting to date and you feel like, I'm wanting to date, go for it and invite God into that process. But there's times where I'm like, this actually is like not good for my heart right now. And it's not good for my headspace of how I'm dating. So personally, I've been off the apps lately, and I was on the apps a lot last summer, and it was good for a time and got to go on a couple dates with different guys. And then there was a point where I was like, oh, this actually feels almost like sour for me. And so I've taken a break. And so I think there is, times where you can go on there and times you take a break, and that's okay either way.
Yeah.
That's so good.
That's really good, Lauren.
Yeah. Honestly, I was going to say the same thing. And just always like talking to Jesus about it, because I think it just depends. Sometimes it's like, oh yeah, totally fine to do that. And then sometimes you're like, can I go on it? And you feel a no. And the reason might be obvious to you, or it might not be. And the Lord's just like, nope, actually, I don't want you to do that right now. So I think it just depends on kind of the season that you're in and just bringing the Lord into it. But if you feel like it's okay, like, and you've never done it, like, go for it. Just, you don't have anything to lose. So, and you might have something to gain. So, yeah.
Yeah, totally. I will say this, like, overall, I've had pretty good experiences on there. Like, by the time I finally go on a date with someone, I would say most of the time it's been like a solid date. So,
because you've done the work beforehand.
She did it.
Because I have vetted them before.
There you go.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. There you go.
Don't you know?
Don't you know? Okay. Well.
Well,
Lauren's got to go somewhere. So
I gotta go, coach. So I gotta get going.
I need to go eat something besides a jar of olives.
Dre, what are you doing? Gonna go hang out with your grandpa?
I think I'm gonna go hang out with my grandpa. Yeah.
This is
number one man.
Can you tell us
number one man in my life right now?
Oh my gosh. Okay, I really gotta go though. I'll talk to you all soon.
Love you. Bye.
Love you.
Bye.